Just starting up.
Too late. It's already started up. Oh no, they can see me drinking coffee. Hi.
Are we live? Did I make it?
Are we live?
Are we live?
Let me know when we're live.
All righty.
We're on the
Here we
air
go.
right now.
You are listening to the Furlo Bros Tech Podcast, episode, 242.
Welcome to Season 6, Episode 242 of the Furlo Bros Tech Podcast. Today is May the 15th, 2016. I'm Matthew Dean Furlo, and making nearly $3 billion worldwide in less than a year, it's my brother, James Furlo.
Yep, that's right. That's exactly how I did it. Like sharing the details of how it was done, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you a hint. You made a couple of movies. Disney is just, they've become, they're not just a juggernaut, they're a global superpower.
You just call him a juggernaut?
Juggernaut? I might have called him the juggernaut, which
Making sure.
it's not quite what it's supposed to be. Yeah, so Captain America is on its way to make over $1 billion worldwide, which is pretty impressive. But
I haven't seen it yet. Oh, I'm horrible. I'm gonna write a note right now.
Come on, James, get it together. But the thing is that, they make these like, you have to do it in less than a year sort of pronouncements. But it's not like beginning of the calendar year. It's like over the course of the last 365 days. And so this includes Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Of course.
Yes. They're making gobs of money. I'm just destroying it. And what's really crazy is that Zootopia, Jungle Book, and Civil War have all surpassed $600 million takes worldwide so far this year. Not to mention the fact that they still have coming up before the end of the year, Alice Through the Looking Glass, Finding Dory, the BFG, Pete's Dragon, Moana, and Rogue One.
I feel like Finding Dory's a sleeper in there that's just going to do amazing well.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because I was hanging out with my girlfriend on Friday, and we were talking about watching like a cute, happy movie, just like whatever, chill on a Friday night, and what did we end up watching? I think it might have been,
I don't know,
Game of Thrones, but
I don't think that qualifies as what you're looking for.
The other option, the original option, was Finding Nemo. So, I mean, it's just, I agree, man. I'm actually excited for Finding Dory. Like if they can pull a Toy Story 2/Toy Story 3.
Yeah, they gotta nail it.
Yeah, I mean, if they can nail it, which I believe in them, but like get that same sort of like, oh my gosh, Finding Nemo love, could be a whale.
Somehow, I don't know. It probably was because of the lack of singing, but somehow Finding Nemo was cool with parents, and Frozen just not so much.
Yes, I think it's the nonstop repeat of songs. Let it go. Let it go.
Just let it go.
Yeah,
I was talking to someone, which this is understandable.
Let it go.
Kids are in college. He was like, "Oh, Frozen. What's that about?" I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Just let it go." And everyone else is like, "Ha!" And he's like, "What's so funny?" Like, yeah, exactly.
That's you're out of the loop, loser.
Yeah, it's okay. It's kind of an inside joke, but you're the only outsider.
That's the worst kind of inside joke. Yeah. Oh man.
All right. So they're doing okay.
Yeah, it's a big year for them, and it's just the other big thing is that they're just dominating everybody else. There's nobody that's even holding a candle to them. So good year for Disney. They finally cracked the male demo.
You just had to get Lasseter in there
Exactly.
again to do his thing. Turns out the dude's a genius.
Yeah. I love how that's another one of those, like, Steve Jobs found a guy and was just like, "You're awesome. Just go do something awesome." And then everybody was like, "Oh, Steve Jobs, you're so smart." Laster, jeez. So, anyways, but you know what, James? We're not here to talk about movies in Disney this week. This week, like every week, we are here to talk about technology and the continuing corporate opera. And by that, we mean the soap opera of corporations, dealings back and forth, the people working for them, their marketing campaigns, and of course, the technology they are developing. But before we get into the heart of the show, James got a short disclosure he wants to throw your way.
Yeah, I founded and work for HPI, but do not represent Hewlett-Packard Inc. or any of their opinions. I also own a tiny piece of Twitter and Etsy.
All right. I own a tiny piece of a bunch of different companies that are underperforming, like Skull Candy and Microsoft.
Man, yeah, I understand. I've been following Lending Club, and to not only to invest in the stock, but to invest in loans that they lend out, kind of get both sides of it.
Oh yeah.
And apparently they had some they didn't do some loans correctly, or something about they had a larger investor who was looking for a certain type of loan, and they didn't exactly give him that large investor or group, I don't know how it works, that type of loan that they were requesting. So they got in trouble for that. And then throughout that investigation, it turns out that the CEO had made an investment in another company and did not disclose the investment when he recommended it to other lenders or borrowers or something to that effect. Got in trouble. So he's been ousted for that. And their stock has been plummeting, and I have it on my watch list, and it popped up. And it's popped up a few days in a row of like, they're way down.
Yeah.
So I'm going like, hey, maybe now's the time to strike while the iron's hot, because I still believe crowdfunding's a thing.
Yeah, if the fundamentals are there.
Yeah, a bunch of articles like, maybe this is the sign of cooling. And this gets back to our MakerBot discussion the other day, where it's like, man, these guys aren't looking... They clearly made some errors, but I think they're still there. So I'm considering expanding the old portfolio. Instead of normally what I do, which is buy at the top and let it fall down. I feel like these guys have fallen down. Maybe for once I can get something that rides to the top. I'm talking myself into it, but
I always love it. I always love it when you make those sorts of decisions and thinking, yeah, this time it's not going to be a disaster. I can feel it.
It's just hard to. Okay, let's see here. When I first was like, yeah, maybe they're the ones. Their stock price was around, I don't know. I'm trying to go back like 3 months, around $10, just under $10, around $9.
Yeah.
Okay. So today they're at $3.50.
Ooh, that's low.
Yeah. They've lost half of their value in the last 3 months.
Wow.
So I'm feeling like it should go back up, right? I don't even know how much money I have sitting in my account. Oh, dude, I could buy. Wait, what is that? No idea what that is. I feel like I could do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it right here, right now. $3.50 chump change, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm just gonna rise to the top. Oh, I have $20 available.
Ooh.
Okay, so that means I could buy.
Go in all the way.
3?
5?
No, well, it's $3.50.
Right. It's 20 divided by.
I don't. Do I want to sink all my funds into this one?
Yes, you do, James. This is your chance. It'll never be like this again.
Okay, it says swipe up to submit. Okay, I'm gonna spend $17.55.
What? Do it.
Boom, going up. Done.
All right. I want updates. I want to know how this goes over the next couple of weeks, months.
Okay.
how much worse it gets.
It's hard to go much. It's hard to go a lot worse.
That's
I probably
true.
got to hang on until they get the new CEO, and then they go through a transition of some sort. All right, man, I did it.
Yeah.
That's my new disclosure. Lending Club. Bought
I like it. It's
Live.
awesome. That's exciting. So if you want
technology crazy, I just bought a company in 30 seconds.
Yes.
That's just crazy.
That is crazy.
Went from making fun of them to buying them in a couple minutes.
So it's an emotional roller coaster, whiplash. So if you want to follow us throughout the week, sometimes we do stuff on the internet. We post it out there. Things happen. It's kind of cool.
True.
My Twitter is at Matthew D. Furlo. My Instagram, all fancy looking now, is NextWiggin4, NEXTWIGGIN.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Number 4.
James Furlo, everywhere.
It's awesome. If you want to,
formerly known as Instagram, I guess.
If you want to get more information about everything we talk about, all the articles, all the clicks, all the links, all the videos and audios, whatever, it's all going to be there at furlobros.com. That's the center of our universe. Go and check it out. It's pretty beautiful. Beautiful website. Also there, if you want to not go to that website anymore, but you want all that stuff delivered to your fingertips, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter where we will deliver everything I just said, all that content directly to your inbox and free of charge. You're welcome. Also, if you're interested in helping keep this podcast going, which we'd appreciate a lot, we've got a Patreon link there. And yeah, become a patron on Patreon. And
it's great.
It's another idea I wish I had. Not
That's
getting
right.
funding on Patreon, but coming up with Patreon.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You know, this is one of those weeks that our job is just hard.
Yes.
Because a lot happened. It's like everyone knew that Google I/O was coming this week, depending on when you're listening to this. And so they're like, let's do it all now. Get it all out of the way. It was just amazing. And so we're going to try really hard. We have like 2 to 3 times as many articles as normal. we're gonna try.
We gotta move.
Really hard.
We gotta move. And the worst part about it is I feel like I left off 5 or 6 articles that are really important, great to talk about. Just we've managed to completely overlook the changes that Periscope are making for the 2nd week in a row. What the heck? But whatever. Boring.
Panasonic created an awesome forecasting model that I would love to talk about, but I'm probably going to pass it up.
Y'all are going to love this. This is my first week without a VR update. But that's because Google's going to announce VR stuff next week. So I'm keeping my powder dry.
Okay, so we're rolling into it. Real quick here. This was actually an article that I missed last week, but I thought it was worth bringing back this week because it's right up our alley for it. Times 50 most influential gadgets of all time. All time. Time complete. Not including future, just past. So not really all.
I was going to say, seems to defy the definition, but we'll go with it.
From today to all back. And this is gadgets. Okay. Toilets are not gadgets.
Printing press. Is that a gadget?
I don't remember.
I don't think it's
so.
Let me see here. Define gadget.
I'll tell you because we're gonna flip through it. Okay, so this is going.
Wait! It should help us. A gadget is a small mechanical device or tool, especially an ingenious or novel one.
Oh, interesting. Well, cool. So, okay, and toilets at one time were ingenious and novel, and I would argue they still are in a ways.
Yes. Yeah, but it's small. It's got to be small for it to work.
There was a New York Times article that we're not even going to talk it. Well, okay, I'm going to do it now because I forgot to add it to the list. So there you go. But it asked the question, which invention was more? Oh wait, I really feel like I should wait on this one because it gives away number one. Because like we all don't know what the number one gadget is. I'm going to hold off on it. Remind me, New York Times article. It's asking. It's comparing. How about this? It's comparing the number one gadget on this list with toilets and flying.
All right.
It's asking the question, which one has had a greater impact on society, essentially.
Well,
It's
stop
interesting.
leaving me hanging. Give me this list. I'm curious.
Okay. There you go. All right. So number 50. So this is the least influential of the most influential items.
And as I'm looking at this list, I agree.
Google
Way to describe
Glass.
it. Yeah. The
I'm
future
kind of shocked that that's even in the list, but okay.
I'm not kind of shocked. I'm very shocked. And I don't even know what's on the list.
Okay. Yeah. So there's that. All right. 49, MakerBot, which we talked about last week quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think like 3D printing, perhaps. I don't know. 48, Segway.
Yeah, see, that kind of, I'm conflicted there because I feel like 3D printing is a much bigger deal than the Segway, but
in terms of gadgets, maybe. I love this one, 47. Yamaha Clavina digital piano. I probably just destroyed that. Sorry, Clavinova. Digital pianos. There you go.
Yeah, this one was from
46. 46, DJI Phantom.
Okay, interesting. I gotta
45, Raspberry Pi.
Yes.
44, Nest. Somehow.
Is this supposed to be? This is supposed to be in a particular order, right?
In order. Yes. Yes.
Jeez.
43 is the Osborne One. Looks like a really old computer.
Yeah.
Made in 1981. Byte magazine celebrated it that it fit under an airline seat. That's amazing. 42 is Fitbit.
All right.
41, Roku Netflix player. These are all very recent, I've noticed, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Which gets to the point of the New York Times article, I think. Sony Discman, the D50.
Okay. Yes, continue. Yeah.
Oculus Rift, which apparently isn't out yet.
That's inconceivable to me. I think it's important and a big deal, but the fact that one beat the MakerBot by 10 is ridiculous.
Okay. We're just gonna skip to number 35.
Okay.
And then we'll go top 10, okay? So number 35, and the only reason why I bring it up, DeskJet. Inkjet printer.
DeskJet.
We made the list.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I know. Let's see here. The Wii's 32.
The Nokia brick is on there.
Yep. Let's see here.
The Palm was on there.
Kindle, Polaroid camera, Commodore, Apple iPad 25, BlackBerry PhoneMate answering machine. Answering machine is kind of a big deal. I'd go with that one. GPS by TomTom. IBM ThinkPad, Motorola Droid. Why the Droid? Other Android smartphones existed before the Droid launched in 2009, but it was the first one popular enough to push Android into the spotlight.
I'd say that's fair.
Okay.
It's the first like major
Motorola Bravo pager. Oh, dude, remember pagers?
I do remember.
We were in a meeting today. I thought this was hilarious. Knowing who's going to listen to this later, I need to be careful. Someone was talking about we need a way to contact each other and let us know if something like a big deal is happening. And the guy was like, yeah, we have some sort of code that if you send it out, we'll know what this means. And I'm in my head going, do we have text messaging? You just tell us what's happening. It's not like just take 20 seconds to just type it out.
We all have iMessages. You can literally send us many characters necessary to fully express what's going on.
No need for us to create a code.
Well, his issue was, and I appreciate this, was that like this will presumably be part of a giant text messaging thread that has already started. I don't know if you looked, and we got blown up with like just a dozen messages already.
Yes?
Yeah, and I was like,
wait, what? I'm not on it.
Oh, that's rough. That's too bad.
Is it too bad?
Yeah, no, it's not.
I've dodged a bullet here.
No, yeah, this stuff is important, and I'm glad I'm part of the conversation. But yeah, it's gonna be
you're local.
Yeah, sure.
All right, number 16, Nintendo Game Boy. Number 15, the NES.
Yeah,
these were higher. I get it. The modem is 14.
56.
Atari is 13, which I think should be above. VCR is 12.
These
are all recently
our parents
biased.
Owned that VCR. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good one. Let's see here.
Why it's important.
Number 11 is the Canon Pocketronic calculator. All right, cool. All right, top 10. Top 10. Here we go.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
That's ridiculous. Okay, yes.
The Magic Wand is the name of it. Let's see here. We're just gonna move on from that one.
Yeah, it's
an inappropriate device.
I'm gonna say
I don't know. Okay, number 9.
It's a marital aid for those of you.
Yeah. All right, number 9, Apple iPod.
Yes, that seems
kind of
fair
enough. Gadget of all time. Okay, let's see here. The Kodak Brownie camera is number 8. That was genuinely a big deal.
That was a big deal.
The number 7 is the Regency TR1 transistor radio.
That was a big deal. That was a very big deal.
Number 6, Victorola record player.
That was a very big deal too.
Number 5, the IBM Model 5150. They had personal computers. This was introduced in 1981, but IBM's sales pitch, bringing Big Blue's corporate computer prowess into the home, helped make this wildly successful. So it was one of like the first personal PCs. Okay, number 4, Sony Walkman.
Yeah,
popular. Yes. What's the influential?
I honestly I can see that because it was the first of your really like it was a big deal in that it was a
mobile entertainment.
Like the transistor radio, it was a mobile electronic that fit in your pocket that allowed you to go everywhere. And I don't think it's unfair that it's continue.
All right. Number 3, Apple Macintosh, the one. Number 2, the Sony Trinitron. It's a television. That's pretty influential, I would say. Pretty influential. Let's see. I wonder what size it is. It's probably look like 12 inches maybe. And numero uno, which I actually agree with this one. Not all of them, but I agree with this one. Apple iPhone.
I think it is interesting that in the top 10, 4 of them are dedicated music platforms.
Well, and again, you think about it in terms of gadgets, so like clearly, and this is what the New York Times article was trying to get at, was like refrigerators, kind of a big deal.
Right.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Indoor plumbing, kind of big. Electricity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like their point was saying, and they were saying like transportation obviously was huge. They're talking about like cars and planes and they were positing on, and I'm just gonna have to add the article later now. When was the biggest time of innovation occurring? And they were looking in 50-year chunks, and they started in like way back when. But they were saying like the dawn of electricity launched a huge revolution in
the electric
a big platform.
Wasn't on the list of your top 50 gadgets, which
it's not a gadget.
It is. It's by definition a gadget.
Biggest platform. Is this a fair statement to make?
You cannot
platform there is, right?
What? The iPhone?
Electricity?
Yeah.
No. Because like even the iPhone, it runs off of electricity.
Yeah, literally everything on this list couldn't be possible without it.
Okay.
With the exception of indoor plumbing. All of these things have electricity as a prerequisite for them functioning. So
fair enough. I think so. That's the biggest platform, right?
Yes.
Is that a fair?
That
statement?
seems fair.
Okay, but obviously not really a gadget.
So this is fascinating to me because just think about this and think about the brilliance of Steve Jobs' like marketing abilities, right? So the top 4, like I said, 4 of the top 10 on this list: the iPod, the transistor radio, the record player, and the Sony Walkman are all dedicated music platforms. And when Steve Jobs first announced the Apple iPhone, he announced it as 3 things. It's a phone. Which a phone didn't make it on this list. The original, I guess there isn't like, maybe there's not a specific like
The
thing.
Nokia.
Yeah, but maybe there's not like a specific thing that was like your first that everybody, because these are talking about.
I highly think if it were me, I would have said most influential gadgets of the last century.
Yeah,
Really
there we go. Yeah. So, anyways, but it's, if you think about like how he pitched it when on stage, it was a phone, it was an internet connection device, and it was an iPod all in one. Like, clearly understanding the importance of mobile music and really putting that front and center. That wasn't a coincidental function. It was one of the core selling points of the original iPhone, was that it was a music player on top of everything else. And I don't know. That's jeez. Look at me. Steve Jobs is pretty smart. He's a pretty clever guy. Kind of had his stuff together. I don't. Jeez.
We're going to talk a little bit later about a guy who wants to be compared to Steve Jobs. The other thing too is that Apple has 1, 2, 3 in their top 10 list. Products.
It's
not bad.
It's the largest company in the world by market cap value.
Is it still?
I think it retook it later this week. They hit another jockey. It's Apple market. I feel like we have to only get credit for your prediction if Apple spends the majority of the year valuing less than Google. Because they keep going back and forth, and you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. And by the way, we get Google's kind of hamstrung, and they obviously got one device that does everything, but they don't really do gadgets.
Google is over Apple currently. Google's at $490.
There you go.
Apple's at $484. So never mind. Worst company ever. Speaking of the worst company ever,
dead to us,
right? I got convinced this week. I've been saying all along.
We're just talking about him. All right.
I know. I got convinced this week that I've been saying that yes, Apple is working on a car, if for no other reason than for R&D purposes to try to figure out what they're going to do in the future. But they definitely weren't like there wasn't a guarantee they were going to launch a car, that they were ever going to sell a consumer vehicle. And I was reading Above Avalon, which they're pretty number-y. They like their numbers. But I read this article, and I feel like, they're definitely launching a car. They have this one graph in particular where they show R&D spending, and they also over time, and then they have these little marks saying basically during this period this device was being developed. So the first section is the iPhone, iPad development. R&D's at less than 100 million. Then it starts to go up and up and up, and then it hits a plateau at about a little less than 300 million during the Apple Watch development. Apple Watch is over, and there's this huge spike where they're spending up to $600 million in R&D, and this would be the project.
Where are you getting your numbers from?
You look at the if it's a couple of
down. The third one. Well, because the first chart was talking about their annual expenses that are in billions, but you're talking about something different. Okay. You're talking about expense growth. All right, yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah, so they're basically saying that they're spending more and more and more money at an increasing rate as they continue to develop stuff, and there wouldn't be spending.
That's not totally fair, but okay.
What do you mean?
Well, it's all incremental. Just when they started Apple Watch development, they didn't stop iPhone and iPad development, and if anything, the Apple Watch development drives further development for the other two. Right. So it's got to be. So it's not like they stop doing the others. If anything, because the product's bigger now, it increases.
Right.
You think about iPhone. This last cycle, they have 3 flagship phones, I guess, for lack of a better word. So they've generally increased the R&D on the iPhone.
Correct. Right. So the
things they're doing are probably more difficult.
Right. The point is that they have these that they. I understand what you're saying, but this is a graph of year over year, like you said, increases of how much they're spending. So it's like you take the integral of the curve, which those numbers just keep getting. And basically, what they're saying is the amount that they're spending every year is increasing at an increasing rate. So, like you said, yes, they're spending an extra $100 million every year on iPhone and iPad development, but that doesn't cover everything. They basically, what the idea here is that Apple has got an enormous R&D project underway that might be a bigger R&D project than they've ever done before, and they're not talking about it other than the rumors of the car. And so, and it's one of those things where people are sitting there going, this isn't like the TVs, where with the TVs, they could spend, how much money could you spend on any one of these projects and never go to production? You couldn't spend this much on a product and not go to production on it, because it doesn't cost that much to develop the car. It costs that much to develop the manufacturing to build the car at scale, is what the argument that Above Avalon is making. And
I guess
I buy it.
Their expected FY15 annual R&D expense, FY16, sorry, is a little over 10 billion total, and they're totally guessing for 17, which is fine. That's a drop in a bucket for them, though. I mean, percentage-wise, we're talking. Let's see here. It's still going to be less than 5% of their budget at the end of this year if their trends continue.
I agree. I'm not saying, but you can't think of it in particular. You can't. It's not fair to think of their R&D budget relative to the entire company, because the entire company is enormous and makes, and does so much. You have to think about it in context of the R&D. Like, well, how much does it cost to do R&D on these different devices and stuff? And honestly, I don't know, would you expect R&D to continue to cost more for Apple Watch development year over year? Or would you expect it to go down? Like, isn't the initial development the most expensive part? And then as you continue to come up with new designs, and especially with the iPhone and the iPad, where, they spent a lot of money on Force Touch, but they didn't really like it.
No, I would expect it to go up. The reason is for version 1, you have a specific vision from a specific leader who has, it's kind of I would imagine instead of Apple, it's a skunk works type of thing, right? You've got a small group of people who are pulling together to make it work. And then once the product's out there, not only can you now pull other people in to help out because it's out there, but you're now getting a ton of feedback from customers. And in that first product, there's a bunch of the things that you say, we're not going to worry about it. We're not going to do it. Let's just launch this thing, which we saw with the iPhone, cut and paste, right? And we all see it with the Apple Watch. It was to the point where they were like, they released their first version of the iOS, and it was, how many months later was it? 5-6 months later, they said, and V2 of Apple Watch iOS or whatever.
Yeah.
And
I see what you're saying.
And so that's when I would expect a significant bump in the next year or two, just because that's what you would get, because you're jumping everybody on board. And they did all the easy stuff the first time around. Now they're trying to say, let's make it twice as then.
And in your defense, they started to increase the budget in 2005 as they began development on the iPhone. They stopped increasing it during the first 2 quarters of 2007 when they launched it, and then the budget started to grow again at about $100 million a year. Every $100 million a quarter every quarter for the next.
That's interesting that in 07 they stopped everything. That must have been, they were just trying to get it done. Well, that's an increase. So they just, so there was no increase whatsoever. I mean, they were obviously still spending money, but they were like, let's just get this thing out the door.
Right.
Let's not worry about any changes whatsoever.
And not to mention, Apple was a different company at that point. I mean, This was pre-iPhone. They weren't the enormous financial juggernaut that they are, that they were even a couple of years later.
Yeah, totally right. I mean, they're at a point now where they can They can drop $1 billion on a company, and that's 1/200th of their cash pile.
Yes.
They don't care.
Which we will talk about them doing that.
Yeah, there's another heads up, teaser. So it's one of those where for them to go, yeah, let's spend more on the R&D. Let's go down these 12 crazy rabbit holes and see which one pops up.
All I would say is
doing what Google does. Just Google's a little more transparent about it.
All I would say is that would make a lot of sense because everybody else does that. Yet that is uncharacteristic of Apple.
Under Jobs, yes.
Well,
Cook has shown he's more normal than not.
Well, but
Cook is not the same kind of creative guy. What was awesome about Jobs and why that they were 3 on the top 10 list was he knew what was going to be influential walking into it. I don't think Cook knows. I think Cook goes, yeah, there's something with watches, there's something with VR, there's something with AI, there's something with autonomous vehicles, and that's related to AI and VR somehow. I think he knows that, but I don't think he's like, oh, this is what it is. And so he, being a good gambler with a lot of money, goes, let's just make a bunch of little bets everywhere. Heck, again, that's what Google's doing. They're saying, we don't necessarily know what the future thing is, but we're going to invest in these 50 things and we're going to investigate them. And yeah, we're going to spend a lot of money and we're going to, maybe none of them, but hopefully some will come to market.
I'm not saying you're wrong about that. I'm just saying, all I'm going to say is up to this point is that all I'm going to say is every sign points to them designing a car. They're building a car. They're doing that. They're deep into that project. Fair. Tons and tons of people, lots of land in San Jose. They just more and more signs that point towards, yes, they're doing this. And this is another one of those. This for me was sort of okay, it feels real now. For whatever reason, like you get enough things pointing in one direction and you finally just kind of go, yeah, okay, I believe it. I believe that this is happening. I don't think they're messing around. Like any one of these points, especially with Apple, you don't really know until they announce it, and then you can buy one a week later. But I think at this point, there's enough different things that they're doing where they're just, and it's not just R&D. Like I said, it's huge parcels of land, huge manufacturing capability in the Bay Area, and the only reason why you would do that is because you're getting ready to build a car. And if anybody's proved that you can build a car in the Bay Area, it's Tesla, because that's what they're doing. They have a factory that they build in the Bay Area and they ship all over the world. So it's not like that's a crazy proposition.
Maybe, just maybe, they're going to build their own version of Epcot. That is, this is the village you can come into. Everything's Apple. Everything's great. And they control it all. And you can live in their society. And
what is those big buildings from SimCity called?
The arcologies?
Yeah, the arcology.
Maybe that's what it is.
It's the space arcology.
That's what I'm going with from now on.
All right.
They're building their own Epcot. It's going to be great.
They're building an arcology. I like it. It's cool. So where you won't hear about that sort of news story, though, James?
No, where I will not hear about it.
Trending news on Facebook. Ugh.
Oh my gosh, stupid Facebook.
Have you been following this flap this week?
A little bit, a little more than I should be, but it was trending. So what are you gonna do?
Right. So this is an interesting little peek behind the curtains.
Go ahead and explain it, and then I have thoughts, obviously.
So basically what happened is the week started out, and a former Facebook worker, the big headline was, former Facebook workers, we routinely suppress conservative news. And basically what they were saying is that you've got the little trending news in the upper right-hand corner of your Facebook main page, and it's supposed to show what you would expect to be trending news. So sort of the top news as it becomes more and more.
Right now, appropriately enough, is Finding Dory. The Predator and Melville Island, Australia A fisherman catches cod with snake in its mouth.
Interesting.
That's cool. It says see more. Kit Harington, actor, shares details about falling in love with co-star Rose Leslie. Okay,
Oh,
whatever.
man.
Italy.
Okay, whatever.
116-year-old lady died. That's Italy. Megan Trainor, a singer, falls during performance of new single Me Too on The Tonight Show. Oops. Let's see here. Singapore. Asian country reports first case of Zika virus. That sounds bad. Stephon Curry, Warriors guard, says he is ignoring LeBron James's comments on MVP award. Sheryl Sandberg, Facebook CEO, delivers.
Well, the point is, I think
Berkeley commencement speech, and Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump.
Whoa!
Street artist paints mural showing Putin and Trump kissing.
I have no. So this is my problem. I have no interest in the trending news, anyways. Like, I don't look at it.
Yeah, me neither.
So you're like going through this list, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so bored, James. Oh gosh. I don't care. They've never had anything on. So this is part of my conflict, right? So basically the idea is that there is trending news, and they sort of present it as this is the trending news on Facebook, and it should be of the utmost importance, and this is what everybody cares about, which makes you think that people don't care about anything. They only care about really stupid and inane things. But turns out that there are actual people in charge of sort of curating that list and putting articles and putting things together,
which totally makes sense, right? You don't want anything obscene. You don't want repeat stories, and clearly they're putting a synopsis, and they're makes sense, right?
And so not shocking, but Facebook wasn't portraying it that way, and then it turns out that they had quite a bit of discussion about what consisted of important news, and basically this worker said, yeah, we were suppressing conservative news. If conservative news started to trend, we would sort of diminish it, and if liberal news stuff started to trend, we might prop it up. And so there are people that are arguing that, like, the Black Lives Matter movement got an undue bump as a result of these curators from what its actual overall appeal, which is, and it's funny, I don't want to get into the politics of like that's too much, is this sort of this larger thing of what does this mean? Like, because people really care about it, right? And it's tough for me because if you look at like the main Facebook app, the trending news doesn't really exist in the app. You actually have to it's buried in one of your sub menus. I don't even know where to find it, to be honest.
Are we talking about on our phones or on our?
Yeah.
Oh,
you're so cool.
I know I am. Let's see here. Take forever to load app. Come on.
Favorites, more friends.
Favorite settings, whatever, dude. It's hidden.
Yeah, it's hidden. The fact that we can't find it yet. So the point here is that people really care about this. And Facebook basically came out right away and said, no, we don't. We totally don't suppress anything. But as the week's gone on, it's become pretty clear that what's going on is they kind of have an algorithm, that sort of, like you said, it pushes information to the top. These guys are looking and reading at all these articles, and then they go through and curate it. They write information down. They're able to put whatever they want. And importantly, these are contractors. They're not actually direct Facebook employees. And so there's, so basically what's going on is Facebook's saying, no, we don't do that. We don't have a policy of that. And yet there's clearly room for human error. And if the humans that were in charge of doing it were saying, oh, yes, we were erring on purpose. I don't know how you could possibly pretend like this isn't happening. But it kind of brings up this interesting question about our relationship to these companies. Because there's this part of me that's like, you know, all news media outlets do this. They curate. That's what their job is to,
I
you know,
appreciate it personally.
exactly. You know, whether you're into CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or
Dig.
Dig, New York Times, whatever. That's what they do. They get news stories and they curate. They try to determine what's important, what's not.
Dude, I've been watching Newsroom recently
Yes.
on HBO.
HBO.
Awesome.
It's pretty good. I do know what it is.
Office?
It's in.
I had to look that up.
The Sorkin vehicle, right?
Yeah. I love Aaron Sorkin stuff. I should really watch the Jobs movie because I would probably love it. But
it's pretty good.
So far, I've loved all of his TV shows that he's come out with. But man, it's good. Just good dialogue. But their whole thing is, what's worth sharing? And the entire crux of it is we're not just going for entertaining, we're going for informing. And so they have questions and debates all the time about what is that, and this problem with entertainment gets ratings, but and so it's like the followers that they have are intense, and then there's always pressure to get more followers, but they're like, but we would have to be entertaining and things like that. So it's highly recommended if you have access to HBO shows. Pretty good. But anyways, so it's been on the forefront of my mind because I watched like 10 hours of it this weekend. I apparently have no life.
Yeah. It's, I know the feeling. We caught up with, my girlfriend and I caught up with Game of Thrones on Friday. So I know the feeling of
for something bubblegum and funny and relaxing to watch.
You know what the worst part about it is there's like so much content about the books specifically online on YouTube, like hours and hours of YouTube videos talking about like just explaining the relationship to all these different characters and everything. That sort of is. Yeah, because there's just a lot of different details that are dropped in the book, and they're all sort of interrelated, and you get them from perspectives and stuff. And like, I kid you not, I've probably watched like 4 hours worth of YouTube videos in the last couple of days.
Whoa.
Yes, and I've barely scratched the surface, but now I know how.
You should just read the books. I feel like that.
But like everything that so I did read the first book, and I did not pick up a tenth of what I've learned just watching these videos. That's the thing. It's like I feel like what I want to do last is read the books. That way I'm kind of like I have a framework to go into the books with.
Yeah. All right, I'm with you.
They're dense. But anyways,
isn't it amazing how there are some people who just have so much time to dive so deep into a subject that you would think who cares, but you care enough to watch 4 hours of it, but not to put that together, and someone else did. I'm constantly blown away by that.
Yeah, I completely agree.
It never gets old,
especially because like I'm jamming on this one guy right now who does these like he does like 10 to 15 minute videos, and he does like
still alive, right?
Yes.
No, not a character, like a YouTuber. Gotcha.
Yeah, YouTuber, and he does like he'll do like 5 to 9 video series on different topics.
Whoa.
And he's done like 15 different topics. It's crazy how many hours of content he has. But one of the things that he did is he goes through and read everything George R.R. Martin has ever written, so that he can like get a context for the sort of things George R.R. Martin cares about, and can bring in those ideas too. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to read the books. How do you? Oh geez. So anyways, this is all kind of comes back to
and awesome.
It is. It's pretty cool. And he's not the only one. The best part is I love when you like my favorite videos are the ones where people like predict what's going to happen, and it's all sunshine and flowers and rainbows, and all the bad people get killed and all the good people.
What?
Sorry, what? Can you hear me? What?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're all delayed. That's all right. I'll stop looking at you. But
continue.
Sorry. So yeah, it's one of those things where like you watch these things that are just clearly these predictions are
lost yet.
Oh, what the heck is going on? You're losing me? You can't. I'm blaming you. Your internet's terrible.
You're totally fine. That's possible. Internet. All right, let's go back to Facebook. Curated stories.
Yeah.
You're just frustrated. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm gonna say this
Do
whole. Yeah.
Do I need to cut the video? I'm gonna cut my video
All
because
right.
you're all. Oh man. Continue.
So Facebook, yeah, I don't even know what the deal with this is. I don't know if I should be really angry about this. What's their expectation of Facebook in this sort of a place? What's their social responsibility? You know, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. If anything, I just wonder if Facebook does like fist pumps where he's like, we're so big and important that we're impacting what people think.
Yeah.
And, that's like his initial reaction. Then he's like, okay, we need to nail this. And it's either what they're going to end up doing is get further away from curating and just go more towards some sort of algorithm that's going to be trending for you. And the trend that's online, and this is kind of ironic, is you like to read things that you agree with, and you'll spend more time there if you agree with it. And so therefore Facebook's going to set up an algorithm that's going to
Yeah.
mostly show you articles that you agree with, and it's actually become more biased per person.
It's funny that
What's
you
going
would
to happen.
It's funny that you would say that because it seems like such a bad idea from a business perspective when you pitch it that way, that you would disenfranchise a group of people. It would have to be, especially since conservatives make up, I don't know, about 50% of the United States. It would have to be done by people who don't have the bigger picture of what Facebook's goal is in mind, like a group of contractors who are guns for hire, as it were.
It's just tough too, because I mean, it's not just what topics do you include in the list, but it's which version of the articles do you choose for the list. I don't know. It's hard. I don't know. I haven't taken a look. It'd be interesting to take a close look at Google News and say, oh, how do they deal with that? Because that's all automated, presumably.
Yeah.
And I think they partially get away from it because they've got, like, here are the top 3 articles that people clicked on. Done. And it is what it is. And it's almost like Facebook should have something like that. But again, they like to present it in a way that, fits in the trending spot. And, looks like 2.5 lines worth of text on average.
Right.
And I don't know. It's kind of interesting and related to this. I'm going to figure out how to put it in. Panasonic, the electronics company, has come up with one of the best ways of predicting the weather through using algorithms. And now there's this question of, it's this private algorithm that they have that predicts the weather really, really well. And the question is, do they have to share it because it's proprietary when, there's clearly a public good to them telling everybody what the weather predictions are?
Yeah.
But they're also like, no, we use this for us to figure out when's the best time to ship and when to to do certain things.
Right.
And like, we don't want to give that up. And so now there's this debate of, well, what should they be required to do? Because it's a private company who came up with their own thing. Yes, they are leaning heavily on some public data as inputs, but they got their own output by doing their own secret sauce on top of it. And it's the same question with Facebook, right? It's, well, these are public articles that they're inputting in, but then they have their own output. What responsibility do they have?
Right.
Someone who is very much like, let the invisible hand, free market do its thing, would say, let Facebook do what they want to do. If they're biased, they're biased. No big deal. If it doesn't work, people is going to stop clicking on it, and they'll get that and change it because people will vote with their clicks, essentially. And, that's what a pure market capitalist type of guy would say. Someone else might say, if you're on the other side of it, Facebook wields a ton of power and people are there for other reasons. Therefore, Facebook has a responsibility from a public good standpoint, because again, Facebook is now it's bigger than itself. We need to watch it and make sure that what they're doing is fair if they're going to present it that way. Somehow in the same way that when you pump your gas and they tell you how many gallons you're putting in your car, we've verified that it actually is that many gallons that we're putting in the car. Because, well, I'm not going to check. And even though I technically can go to any gas station, you can't verify any of them. So you have a third party doing it. Is something like that required? Probably not. But I get that.
I would say
Facebook's concerned, which is why they're like, internally, we're going to get after this, and we want it to be fair and unbiased.
Right. Exactly. I would say for them, for their sake, I don't think they should. If they want to have a left-leaning news thing as the top, it's their company. They can do whatever the heck they want. And like any news media, but the problem that they would run into, like you said, is that people would become aware of that, and people would look for something that they want their information from. If for example, I use their paper app, which allows you to parse out just particular topics, right? And so I have a tech one. And if the tech one's never talked about virtual reality, I probably wouldn't use it very much, but I want the top news. And if it were something else, I'd go to a different website. Just like I don't use other websites because, I don't use Reddit for much tech news because, come on, guys, like talk about anything that isn't stupid and I'll go with it. So I don't know. It's an interesting question, especially as a company. I think for them, the obvious thing that they would want to do is, like you said, not even necessarily be fair and unbiased, but just be biased towards the consumer in particular to serve their audience what will keep them around.
I believe this is where someone who wants to just be mean would make the comment of, well, conservatives are working, and so therefore Facebook should cater to the people who are goofing off online who don't have jobs. So maybe they are catering to their customers.
Yeah.
That's just mean. Don't do that.
Don't
is that person. And probably not true.
It's definitely not true, especially considering most of the people in the Bay Area that are developing this technology and working tons of hours are liberals.
It's true.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. It's one to watch because
it's Facebook.
Yeah, just interesting.
Fair enough. Okay, we're gonna talk about Snapchat. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
gotta do it.
As long as we don't talk about Evan Spiegel, my nemesis.
That's exactly what we're going to talk about.
Dang it.
I know. So Recode came out with an article titled Inside Evan Spiegel's Very Private Snapchat Story. Yeah. So turns out that he himself is actually a very private guy. He doesn't really use any social networking thing. And not even Snapchat very much, apparently. I guess he had some tweets, but they've all been deleted, and he doesn't really use Facebook or Twitter. Obviously, includes all of those guys. So anyways, they went a little into how he runs the company, and
stupidly,
he doesn't want to be Steve Jobs. Are you surprised by this?
Wait, he wants to be Steve Jobs?
Yeah. Well, he runs his company as if he was. So everything goes through him. He's the boss.
Yeah, that's not shocking. I can tell by the quality of their product.
Yeah. So let's see here. They talk about his numbers and how amazing things are. They've got 130 million daily active users, and I love this. The number was just under 100 million a year ago, so 30% increase. Very good. Said it's also creeping up on Twitter's 310 million monthly active users. Like, creeping is the operative word there.
Yeah.
Because it's still a lot of years before they overtake them, and that's a long time in the tech world, but whatever. I'm not going to worry about it. Let's see here. 65% of them are 18 to 24-year-olds. Not a surprise. And apparently, I thought this was interesting too. The app on the iOS App Store, it ranks higher than every one of Facebook's apps, or did throughout the month of April. Which I'm kind of like, it reaches a point where there's no one else to download Facebook. So
Right.
yeah, you should rank higher at that point. You know, it's they need to yeah, anyways. um let's see here. They talk about he is obsessed with privacy. So they were saying that was one of the things that he doesn't do is they don't collect any user data at all, pretty much, unlike, again, Facebook and Google. And so the ads are just general ads and the news is just general news, nothing general news. Nothing is really curtailed to you. And it's because he respects your privacy.
But that's just blatantly not true. I mean, they cooperate with the police on a regular basis, giving over information that they have about individual users, giving videos and stuff.
They don't have any information though.
But they do. They have all of your videos. Like, that is all the content. Just because they're not processing it and turning it into digestible information yet doesn't mean they can't or won't. It just means they're not yet. They do store all that information. That's hilariously untrue. It's like, that seems to me like the sort of spin that you would get a PR person to put out there to kind of keep that whole, oh yeah, your pictures automatically delete thing going. When that was the biggest criticism, that has been the biggest criticism.
They did delete off your device.
Exactly. Well, and that's right. That originally that was the biggest complaint, is that they weren't even deleting off of your device. They do now, but when they first started, until somebody called them out on it, no, they were storing them on the device too. They just weren't giving you. It was hard to get access to them. That just.
So, I love getting you riled up. One of the things they found is that he can be tough to work for. Especially those coming from Silicon Valley, where companies preach openness and debate. They're based in LA, by the way. They say that they rarely have all-hand meetings, and when they are, they're mostly to announce things like birthdays and work anniversaries. Execs rarely field questions, and future products are simply not discussed. They say a lot of times that employees learn about a new Snapchat product is by reading about it in the press. They say, again, I know you disagree with it, but his obsession with privacy is heightened by the company's physical layout. They have a whole string of independent office buildings along Venice Beach. And oftentimes he has walking meetings, not necessarily to get exercise, but because it's harder for people to listen in when you're walking down the beach path. How about that for interesting? And they said, like, this is pretty interesting too. Several of his top executives have quit or been pushed out over the past 2 years, and many of them lasted less than 18 months. A big example is his former chief operating officer, Emily White, who joined from Instagram, left after a little more than a year. And then he talks about the sales boss gone, the HR director also gone after 6 months. And and apparently a bunch of them, if you're looking for a job, they have a bunch of vacant positions that have been vacant for over 6 months.
Well,
and again, everything goes through him. His opinions are final. They've had stuff where they've had ad deals that were pretty much all but done that he went and killed at the last minute. And here's the interesting part. Arguing with you, it's a scary thing to argue with him because he fires quick, which is a little different than Steve Jobs, if I remember correctly. He was totally willing to yell at you and be upset at you, but he would not fire you. Whereas Spiegel, he'll do it.
Yeah, Steve Jobs would belittle you until you either changed or quit. I mean, he wasn't. He would. And honestly, that was young Steve Jobs. Was a complete jerk to work for, but everybody that worked for him, not everybody, but the vast majority of people that worked with him post him coming back to Apple, said he was one of the best guys you could possibly work for. Like, he was patient, he was kind, he was understanding, and not to say that he wasn't, like, he didn't have sharp jabs every once in a while, because he couldn't stop himself completely, but just he was actually a good boss in the traditional sense of it. And that kind of lore about him being a maniacal jerk was overinflated, especially in the
Well,
later
it
years.
sounds like not the second time round perhaps, but the first time round it did
Oh
not sound
yeah,
like it.
but the thing was, and this is the important part, was that Apple, it wasn't like, the Apple or the Macintosh computer is a sort of legendary device because it was such a radical step forward, but it was a failure of a product. It didn't make the company any money. It didn't turn it around, and he got fired as a result. It's not like it's not like, he was so difficult to work for. People didn't like him and they stole the company from him. No, they took it from him because he was a bad influence. Because it wasn't he was a visionary, but the company has to survive for a visionary to do any, to have their vision fulfilled. And it wasn't till he grew up a lot and was successful at other projects like Pixar, like Next Computing, that he really was able to come back to Apple and then succeed.
Now, I don't know if he was successful with Next, but okay.
Well, he was it was that's my point, right? I guess I misspoke there, because you're right. He wasn't super successful there, but that was part of the development. He had to go through those stages before he could actually be any good. And, I joke about Evan Spiegel being my nemesis, but and maybe one day he could.
What happened was Jobs learned, and this is what Spiegel doesn't get, because they talked about one of the things when they ask about his controlling tendencies. His supporters like to point to Steve Jobs, not known for running Apple as a democracy, and he has a painting of Jobs hanging in his office. Okay. But what I think is interesting about Jobs, and this comes back to the very, very first thing we talked about in this show, was Jobs finally learned to give up some control and let the people who are experts, one might argue savants, do their thing and to just get out of their way.
Yeah.
And he cared, and he learned to work with them, right? Pixar was not successful because of Steve Jobs. It was successful because of Lasseter's vision and Jobs saying, I trust you, make a good film. I'll do the negotiating. I'll make sure that, we get the distribution with Disney, but you make a great product. Yeah. And, and it was him learning and finding Johnny Ives and becoming his, spiritual partner, like Johnny talks about, right? And there was this level of bond and trust where Jobs would go, yeah, I trust your vision and what you're making with this fancy translucent clamshell. Yeah. Let's go for it. And which was also on the list, by the way. And but it was him realizing that no, there are other experts. And yeah, he was totally hands-on and involved in like creating the Apple stores and the iPod and stuff like that. But there's a reason why we know about Tony Fadell, right? Fadell? Yeah. Because they call him the grandfather of the iPod, not necessarily Jobs, but it's like, no, we know about him. And Jobs let him run the show and make decisions and come up with the click wheel idea. And I think Spiegel like missed the second half of that story and didn't realize the epic fail of the first time round. And I'm with you here. It's kind of clearly Recode actually didn't get to interview him or talk to him, and everyone spoke off the record. So I'm kind of shocked that it's as nice of an article as it is. But it's like he missed that point of it. I don't know, man. I'm still in the camp of like, it's hard to believe how well they're doing. And you just get this sense that somewhere in there, it can't be sustainable, I guess. I don't know.
I completely agree. In his defense, Steve Jobs was 30 when the Macintosh came out. When did the Apple II come out?
I don't know. This guy is like 25.
25, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I don't.
He owns a Ferrari.
I'm not surprised.
He's a helicopter pilot, and his girlfriend is a former Victoria's Secret model.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you're a super billionaire.
You contrast that to, again, like Zuckerberg and Jobs and heck, even Gates, right?
Yeah.
They don't live that way.
Right, exactly.
Just
Exactly. It's none of them have Ferraris. None of them married supermodels. None of them, like Larry Ellison went out and he knows how to fly a plane, but it's
yeah,
different.
Larry
It's
Ellison,
different with
maybe
Larry
not.
Ellison and especially I get the whole okay, I want to learn how to fly a helicopter. That's kind of cool.
Maybe
I
he's
get
gonna
that.
be a Larry Ellison. Maybe that's what he's gonna be.
Well, but this is the thing. Larry Ellison built freaking what was the company? Okay,
Oracle.
thank you. Built Oracle. Like Oracle. Snapchat's not gonna be Oracle. That's a laughable proposition. And it's like I sit there and I go, you want to be Steve Jobs, but even if you were to say, okay, compare the Apple II to Snapchat, like I, I what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. And not that he's not going to be successful, and not that he's not going to be annoying me for the rest of my life as he builds other successful platforms.
Yes.
He's just like he Snapchat isn't so far hasn't proven itself to be like Facebook, where Facebook built something really kind of unique and leveraged it into something amazing and unique in that it wasn't unique that it was the first social media network. It was unique in that it was built by the first real computer scientist that understood what would happen if you took all that information and did something with it. Whereas things like MySpace were like, well, we want to connect musicians to and artists to the people, which is a cool idea, but they never leveraged that into the giant social media thing that Facebook is. And I just don't see like if that's true, and I actually do not believe at all that they're that. I think that was a major media thing that everybody internally is like, no, people are scared that we're collecting all their data, and I do not believe them at all that's the truth. That's what they say. That's not how they act. But even if that were true, it's almost an indictment of what they have. They have a social media platform. Like what do you mean you don't use?
He thinks about them as a communication platform.
I
And
know
therefore you don't
it's a
need to collect
camera
their
app.
information.
Um,
I know.
Whatever.
All right, I got you riled up.
Thank you. So speaking of companies that, how did they get so far behind? So the guys that built Siri came out with it before it got sold to Apple. Came out with a new artificial intelligence platform that they call Viv, and it's pretty impressive. If you go to the website, we've got a video there where you can watch them using it, and it's Siri-esque in that you ask it to do things and it'll do things for you, but it is not Siri-esque in that you can ask it to do really sophisticated things and it has no problem doing it. For example, you can say stuff like, Viv, could you get for me a transportation to the nearest airport? Also, there's 5 other people, and can you do it 4 days after next Saturday? And it's able to parse all of that, understand, okay, you want 6 people, you're going to the airport, it's going to be on this day of the week, and it's smart enough to be also just call the Uber for you or schedule calling an Uber for you. And knowing, more importantly, not just that you need the Uber, but that you need the Uber X with the larger vehicles so that you can fit all 6 people. It's similar in line to what Amazon is doing with their Alexa platform, except they're trying to take it even a step further, where it's not just third parties plugging in their API calls into the device, but really having this artificial intelligence be smart enough to be able to do stuff, like really do stuff. And so they show off some of the features, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty impressive what they're building with this thing. And yeah, there's no real word on like where it's coming to right now. You know, like obviously it's going to be, or you download it as like an extra app for your platform. So it's not going to be like Siri or OK Google where it's sort of omnipresent, but you'll be able to download it and use it, and it sounds kind of cool.
That does sound cool.
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching the video. Yeah, one of the things that I
So
find
these guys all used to be part of Apple, and now they left essentially, and they're now doing it on their own.
Yep, they're building another one, which is interesting.
Wow.
One of the questions that has kind of come up is, so what the heck what the heck happened here, Apple? How these
I'm
guys
surprised that they're allowed to do that, but
no, there's not a non-compete. Well, they were in stealth mode for quite a few years after the purchase of Siri, or after this, and I wonder if it's one of those things where they had a non-compete for 4 years, and 4 years is up. Let's see here.
Yeah, maybe.
I think Wikipedia. It came out on the 4S, which was quite a few years ago. 2011, so 5 years ago, 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. I'll bet that's exactly what's going on. Is that they were all under a non-compete act for that long, or agreement, and it's finally up, so they can start to push the conversation forward. But yeah, it's pretty sophisticated. What they're able to do. I especially like the idea that this thing is, it's smart enough to know that not only when you order an Uber, it's smart enough to know that you can, like, based on how many people, what it should do. Which is actually really useful because I just remembered. So if I do this, hey Siri, what's my?
You were saying.
Hey Siri, what's my name?
You're Matthew, but you asked me to call you Uber.
So I didn't actually ask her to call me Uber. I asked her to call me an Uber. And yeah. I was asking her to call me an Uber because I had had a few drinks and just kind of went out there. And so for like the last probably 6 months to a year, she's been calling me Uber anytime it comes up. So this is a big one for me. I'm happy that this is happening. But yeah, so I don't know. It calls into this big question, and people are really hoping that Apple will talk about this in the next at WWDC later this year, that they're going to be doing something with Siri, because at this point, everybody's kind of getting into this bandwagon of, all right, it's time to get third-party services in, and people are asking why didn't this happen? Why hasn't Apple been working on this? What have they been holding back for? And there's also some really sophisticated stuff that this company has come up with in just being able to build these actions that they demonstrate, and how companies can kind of plug their API in and how it's used. And coming up with, I don't know, it's funny. It's hard for me to even understand, but I think it's because I'm not a doctorate in machine learning. But I think it's hard for everybody to understand exactly what it is that they're doing. But what they're saying is that they're making it much easier for people and companies to very quickly integrate their services, specifically because it's done in such a way that allows their AI to kind of figure out how to use the services on its own, which is pretty cool. I don't know. It'll be interesting. This is definitely, in my opinion, something where Apple has really fallen behind. They came out with Siri. It's cool. I still use it for the limited functioning that it has. But at this point, between Microsoft, Google, Amazon, these guys, and other sundry competitors, I don't know. It's time to open up that third-party integration in one form or another, if they can do that. And to sort of talk,
And they're gonna go the bot route, just like Facebook, but with, I get that. That's what I get the sense that they're gonna do. They're gonna open up it to bots, and either through Siri or texting or some combination of the two. All I want to do is mark texts as unread. That's it, and I'll be happy. I'm so easy.
One day.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying. I don't know if they're that far behind, but I definitely agree that they recognize the issue and are going to open it up.
I was going to say, well, it's one of those things I would agree. I guess they're not super far behind, but the rest of the group is starting to pull away, and Apple's not even making, it's not the sort of thing that they would announce in the middle of the year. It's the sort of thing they would announce at WWDC. But if they don't announce something, a change to Siri this year, it's going to be really bad news. I think in a year it'll be just unbearable how much further behind they are, especially because so many of these tools, people are going to have to build custom built tools, and standards are going to be made, and it's like at some point pretty soon they're going to lose the race to be able to set any standards that they want. Except they also have one of the largest platforms on planet Earth. I suppose people just they can be a little late to the party and still survive, I suppose. But I don't know. But to show how good artificial intelligence can be, there's kind of this cool article that I wanted to throw in quickly, where the artificial intelligence, the AITA, is an AI in this one class. What school is it? Shoot, I should have written this down. Georgia Institute of Technology. So they have this AI class, and there's a bunch of TAs, and since it's a computer science class, they have forums that you can type onto and people will respond to. And one of the TAs named Jill Watson turns out wasn't a person. It was the graduate students who were acting as TAs developed an artificial intelligence to respond to a bunch of their questions. And
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool. And it was handling, I think they were saying it was like 40% of all of the communications and answers, but they went really out of their way with this so that it wasn't just like a chat bot. They really wanted it to be able to understand questions, to be able to add to conversations and to do things. And so they set a very high confidence rate before it would respond of at least 97%. That being said, it was getting there with a lot of your just sort of run-of-the-mill questions and conversations that it was able to ask and answer. They said there were like a couple of little weird hiccups, that 3%, where they Miss Watson had at least one close call using the word design, where she should have used referenced project or exam. Mr. Polipetti stepped in quickly to clarify her comments. I think Jill is using design as a casual statement, he wrote, which is kind of funny. But they one of the great things is, I guess Jill Watson's actually a common name. So one of the students, because some of these students are a little bit suspicious, they were like, yeah, she responded super quick to questions, like no delay. So people were like, these students would want to know more about the people that were their TAs. So they'd go on to like GitHub and stuff and try to look up their code.
That's funny.
Turns out Jill Watson's a common enough name that, there was GitHub stuff, and like, they just kind of believed like, oh yeah, okay, this is a real person. The reason why they came up with the name, her last name is Watson, is because she's actually based off of IBM's Watson platform. And
interesting.
Yeah, so they it's just fascinating, kind of pointing where the direction we're going, and with all this stuff, it's not like I've said before. Artificial intelligence, the concern isn't that it's going to completely replace every person that does a job. The concern is that it's going to offload enough of the work where you just don't need as many TAs, and then your TAs are out of work. What are they going to be doing? Just going to class and research and stuff. Oh, fascinating, kind of cool. Going places, James.
That's so awesome.
I know.
Oh, smart people.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them.
I know. I really want to learn more about artificial intelligence. I want to be able to build them. It sounds fun. Machine learning.
I agree. Well, give me a second here. Google Docs is being dumb, so I gotta switch machines here. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So Instagram is right.
This is huge. Huge news. Biggest news this week.
They came out with a new icon.
Yeah, they did.
New colors for their app.
Yeah, whole new design scheme that does exactly the same thing. I feel like there's a threshold that you cross as a company where when the most exciting thing that you're doing is launching a new icon, you've crossed into some uncomfortable territory of boredom. Like, man, oh man, I do not care.
Well, it's kind of important.
Is it?
But usually it's wrapped up with new features, you know?
Yeah, normally it is launched with new features, and so that's kind of what's disappointing here, right? Is
they changed the color of the other buttons inside the app to black and white. You get that sense like they spent way too long on the icon and then ran out of time.
Yeah.
Just make it black and white, whatever, guys. Come on. I love this one quote of it. If you haven't seen it because you haven't downloaded Snapchat, that's cool. It used to be, what's the term? Isomorphic. And
isomorphic?
Yeah, I don't know. The one where it looks real, but it's digital. And now it's got like this gradient rainbow in the background with the outline of what seems to be a camera. And I love this one quote. It was in Daring Fireball's article quoting another article, which I didn't look up. So there you go. And it said, it's not to say it's a bad looking icon. No, as far as camera icons go, this is quite lovely and has the minimal amount of elements necessary to be recognized as a camera, but not the minimal amount of elements necessary to be recognized as Instagram. Which I thought nailed it on the head, and our disappointment around it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Not to mention, I'm about to send you a GIF, James, that we'll have to link to the website. That is kind of sums up my feeling about it. I can just post the link. I'm texting you. We're looking at the same exact document. I can just post the link in there. But
you want me to describe what's happening?
Well, yeah, sure.
Okay. So it's this kid. He's, oh my gosh. It's like this little kid. How old would you say he was? Like 13, 14 maybe?
Yeah. It's kind of a classic internet meme GIF that is.
Is it?
Yes.
He's like playing on an old school Mac is what it looks like. Like not Apple, but like one of the original Macs. And he opens up the gradient editor in what program is that? It looks so familiar.
It's Photoshop. It's like old school Photoshop. Yeah.
Old school Photoshop where it's got like, here are the 12 default gradients to choose from. And he clicks through a bunch of them and eventually lands on one which looks like almost exactly like the icon for Instagram. And then it finishes with him giving a thumbs up.
Yeah.
This little kid. It's like, and done.
Yes. But it's pretty. I don't know. They went. It was such a big media campaign, and they had like big videos and stuff, and yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's just, man, and honestly, I like Instagram. They're super successful, big company. I got no problem with them. It is one of those things where, like, at this point, they've pushed out big features that they have done small little tip of the caps to, and haven't gone out and made a big deal about. But this they made a huge deal about. And
well, I remember they made that big deal about the Facebook like when they changed that up.
yeah, well, and that one kind of makes sense to me because it's kind of a big
Like
deal.
a fundamental user interaction.
Exactly. Whereas this one, I guess if Facebook made a big change to their logo, I guess it would be, if they changed the font, it would be a big deal too. But
I guess.
I don't know. It seems stupid to me.
All right, we're gonna switch it up one more time here.
Do it.
And we're gonna talk about trends in angel investing. And hopefully we can do this one reasonably fast. The reason why I'm bringing it up is that there was a recent report done by some people at Willamette University that looked into this. I was taught by one of them, so I'm like, sweet, on the bone. So they do this thing called a Halo report, which studies angel investing across the U.S., and it's one of the longest lasting ones and stuff like that. It's super cool. So anyways, here's some things to keep in mind. If you're looking to get some angel funding up front for a startup that you have, you should be prepared. Yeah, you should be prepared to give them about 20% of your company.
All
So
right.
if you're watching Shark Tank, should be around 20%.
Okay.
And that's gone. It actually used to be closer to 25, but in the last 6 years, it's gone down. And also really interesting is that the amount of money has actually gone up dramatically in the last year. So it used to be around half a $500,000. Yeah, those are K's, lowercase K's for some reason. So whatever that is. I'm a snob on that kind of stuff, I guess. Oh man, I am that guy. Anyways, so $500,000 was about what it was. Last year, it was up to $850,000.
Whoa.
So quite the jump in terms of funding amount. That's a 67% increase, in case you were curious. But here's the other really interesting part about that too, is that it used to be the way that it worked was you would go find an angel who would give you some seed money, $500,000. You'd do your thing, prove it out, start to get some traction, and then when it was time to scale, you would go then talk to your venture capitalists who would then play around with your other 80% essentially.
Right.
And and then they'd start throwing around millions of dollars, which they don't say how much that would be, but that's kind of how that worked. And those two may not be related at all. Well, what they're finding is that now angel investors, they're offering you a lot more money up front, but they are also setting you up to do the next round, the A round, right? Your A series, with, how do I say it? Usually these angels, they are part of some sort of VC.
Yeah.
But doing the seed round and setting you up so that when you're ready to go to the next level,
yeah,
you use their venture firm.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they're like, so a lot of these structures are being set up to be like perfect for just rolling in with their VC firm, and which is a little bit different. And it's almost like the recruiting is going further down the stack now.
Right.
They're trying to catch those wonder companies before they actually happen, which is pretty interesting.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. So anyways.
Fascinating. That's kind of cool.
Good job, Limit.
Yeah. I like it.
Also, oh man, I got like 3 quickies in a row.
That's
cool. How are we doing on time? All right, we're good on time. Excellent. I have a love affair with Slack, which is kind of weird because I don't actually use it. I really want to. And And I hear like all these situations all the time where I'm like, Slack. One second, I got here. If I don't, I won't remember what we talked about. And so, yeah, so they came out with a new way of becoming you can sign in with Slack essentially if you have another app. It's kind of like, how
super exciting. Just like
there's like dude, whatever. It's the Facebook login thing.
Yeah.
But for Slack and, Google has it and whatever. So they're getting into that. They just continue to kick butt and take names. And I feel like I'm on the sidelines watching them and not getting to use all the cool features. It kills me.
Yeah. They do seem like the sort of company that they seem like the kind of company that I can get excited about, where it's hard for me to get super excited about a company like Snapchat. They have more in line with WhatsApp than anything, where they're a communications platform that really is just focused on building a great platform.
Just like
Snapchat. And it's that's really just focused on building a great platform that works super robust, really useful, and just has everything. It does everything it's supposed to do, and it's kind of cool. And I think at this point they probably are too big to be bought. So we're going to get to see them grow and kind of become their own thing as a full-featured platform. Can they replace
so that's
email?
actually the plan. They want to go public, and they've actually started submitting themselves to voluntary audits, which is like step 1. So going to happen. What I need to do is start up a company, and we just start with Slack and eschew email and texting, which is hard.
Yeah. So what's the end game for Slack? Is there are they hoping to replace email for everybody? Because one of the nice parts about emails and texting are that they're, at least in concept, with this is true with texting, but they're these open platforms, open protocols that anybody can plug into. Slack seems to like to keep everything in-house, which I think opens them up.
Yeah, it's more like, think like an Outlook and Link competitor. It's kind of a better way to think about it, I guess. Yeah. Especially like the Link, the IM part, but it's this weird tweener where it's kind of email and IM together type of stuff. It's super popular with startups and smaller companies, not so much with the Fortune 500s. They say part of it has to do with their pricing structure, where it's like $80 a year per person. And that, like, if you have like 10,000 people, that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
And Microsoft's cheaper at the end of the day. And like you said, it's got this interoperability, because you're going to need both, right? Because like you still got to send an email to people outside your company.
That's I guess what my question is. And that's the thing that, like, for me, I think I wonder if that's on Slack's horizon, or if are they happy just being a complete solution for a group of people, and their hope is to kind of just stay a walled garden and be so awesome that enough people join the walled garden that it becomes a thriving ecosystem in and of itself? Or is there a larger plan to create some sort of a open protocol that other companies can plug into and build competing, like email, exactly like email, where it's this standard protocol and it goes back and forth, and different companies have their own email solutions, and you can build your own email server, and you can store it on your own space, or you can use Google, and you can use Google's interface with your different servers. I mean, like, there's just a bunch of flexibility because of the nature of it being in a standard open protocol. I wonder if Slack will ever get to the point, or if that's their plan, is to go, look, we're developing a program, we think we're onto something in a way to communicate, and at some point we're going to propose a protocol that other companies can build their own Slack servers effectively, and
I doubt it.
interoperability. Oh man. Well, then what's the point of it? You're not like that's always been the big selling point is that you can move beyond email. Email's stupid. Everybody hates it, and we want the next big thing. But it's
I think it'd be less stupid if you didn't use it all the time. I think that's the point. I mean, there's a place for email. There's value. And if I could mark text messages as unread, there'd be value there too. But there's this I don't know. For me, like, I don't work with people face to face. And so we IM all the time. Like all the time. And now we're actually using OneDrive for a lot of our file sharing. And so I don't email files a lot anymore. I upload them to this drive and everyone has access to it. And so we're using email. We still use it a ton, don't get me wrong. But I'm relative to probably what it would have been before IMing came along. Man, that would have been huge. So I don't know, that instant communication thing is big. And we have this weird thing where there's IMing and there's email and other stuff. And the problem with IMing is it's synchronous right now, whereas this would allow it to still be asynchronous to a point. And I don't know, there's a need for it. Just for internal teams to collaborate. There's a good need for that. You don't have to create some new protocol that's open and that everybody can use. I don't see that as a requirement to be successful and change the way companies work.
Fair enough.
Just wait until you get into a bigger company, man. You'll see it. I don't know. How do you communicate right now with people you work with?
I don't know. We don't. Things are pretty bad. Wow. Things are pretty bad at work. Text and email.
Did you text and email? All right.
Interesting.
So that was supposed to be fast. So there goes that. There's a video that when you get an opportunity, you should watch it.
Okay.
Disney has developed this new sticker technology that lets you turn any piece of paper into an interactive controller. And you can even use a marker if you want to. Nice. So this link is going to send you to their YouTube channel.
Yes.
Then just watch some of the videos. It's going to blow your mind on they're essentially like these RFID things that you just draw on. So crazy cheap, easy to make, almost disposable. This is going to go somewhere. This is like a first. It's just it's their R&D, but just starting to go somewhere. It's kind of cool. So an opportunity to check out that video.
All right. This is Disney's R&Ds they're crazy. They're so good at building stuff. They build really cool tech.
Well, they're Imagineers, right? Makes sense.
Exactly. Imagineers.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
No, it's imagination where you put your hands in the air and the rainbow comes down. Imagination. SpongeBob reference. Oh my gosh, I just did that. Oh, some of those shows, fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. Some of them highly, highly, highly annoying. But man, when they got it right, they got it right.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
I can appreciate that. Speaking of getting it right, so I don't know if you've noticed this, but there was a time period, I don't know, it feels like a year ago, maybe it was 2 years ago now, where, I don't know, whenever iOS kind of opened up the third-party keyboards, third-party keyboards was a thing, and it's kind of gone onto a lull, and it's no longer a thing, unless you want to do GIFs really easily. But recently, both Microsoft and Google have decided, no, it's a thing again.
Right. They're throwing in their hat.
Yeah. And on my iPhone, I have Microsoft's new keyboard. And on my iPad, I have Google's new keyboard.
I got to get Microsoft's new keyboard.
And it's only available on the iPhone. And I'll be honest, they are both significantly better than Apple's.
Ooh.
Except for maybe one thing that
what's that?
They don't have. And then both are good in their own individual ways. So what I like about Apple's is it has the dictation option where I can hit the little button and dictate what I want to say. I actually like that. Use it quite frequently. Super annoying that it's not on the others. But
right. So
it's an Apple thing. So
which keyboard is that you like from Microsoft? Is it their WordFlow keyboard or is it their Hub
the
keyboard?
brand new one they just did. The Flow, I think is what they call it. WordFlow, something like that.
What's their hub? I'm just gonna get them all. Why not?
I don't know, dude. Flow's their new one.
Oh, cool.
It's awesome. It allows you to do the swipe thingy. Both Google's and Microsoft's let you do that. Microsoft's has this weird option where you can switch the keyboard, so it's like a quarter circle on one of the corners of the screen, so that you can type one-handed or swipe one-handed. It's really weird. I haven't mastered it. I don't like it or use it, but it's kind of a cool thing. But I find from just a keyboard layout standpoint, theirs is the most natural and most comfortable. It's made to type fast, if that makes sense. And it's just like even little tiny things where when you tap over the period, it's got a question mark, exclamation, comma, and a period for you to choose from. It's just really, really, really convenient for typing stuff. I really appreciate it. The buttons are a little different. It looks cool too. I don't know. It's got that going for it. And so I really like that just from a pure typing standpoint. I think theirs is the best. Now, Google, on the other hand, what I really like about them is they've integrated a few other keyboards into one. So they've got in their keyboard all the emoticons that you can use. But then when you tap on the emoji one, it also gives you an option to look at a bunch of GIFs, pre-populated ones, and then you could search whatever GIF you want, built right into the keyboard. Super nice. So when I installed it, I was like, oh, I'm taking off my Giphy keyboard as well because I've got it built into it. But then the other cool feature on it is in the upper left-hand corner, there's a G there, and when you tap on the G, it opens up a search thing. And you can search whatever you want. It gives you results. Tap on the results, and it will then put the link or the map or the contact or whatever right into your field for your message.
Nice. So you can you just do it right there. Drop it in. I read an interesting article about how basically with a single app, Google has injected itself into every corner of iOS. That was always one of the big concerns, right? Is that in an app-based world, people were Googling less. And now they're like, so we'll just put Google into your keyboard because that's the one thing that's everywhere, which I actually kind of like. I like the idea of it, especially if you integrated like a Google Now into the keyboard or Cortana into the keyboard. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, right?
I actually just thought about that. That's like the perfect
I actually thought
place
that was kind of weird, and I meant to open it up and double check because I just couldn't remember if it had the ability to speak, and it doesn't. It appears, but yeah, no, they totally should have the Google Now option.
Exactly. I like it. I like it a lot. Man,
it's pretty cool. I think they're doing all right, but I think the big players are getting back into it, and it's good because it's going to make Apple do better, and they're both doing all right. So I haven't decided which one I like the most. Flow is not available on the iPad, and so Google might just become my default just out of that, so I have some consistency.
Right.
But at least for now, I'm kind of liking them both. I really like the swipey thing. Swiping's nice. I'll admit it. Apple needs to figure that one out too. Man, we are just Apple bashing today. Man, cannot wait until next week.
Right? It's funny. I actually had I had an interesting experience this week, just kind of like reinvigorating my enthusiasm for Apple, and I feel like that hasn't shown through at all in this episode.
That's the case.
I
other than the car. Other than
Let
the
me say-
car thing, which I summarily tried to shoot down as hard as I could.
I know you did. I think the big thing for me in Apple is like it feels like you're in a fat lull for Apple, and you definitely are.
I know.
There are worrying signs, but at the same time, just classically Apple, you don't know until they actually do something. And whereas these other companies, they're so public about their development, about their experiments and everything, that it just seems more exciting, even though these products are months, years, decades off. And it's like,
Remember that one year though when Apple released something on every single Tuesday of the year?
yeah,
That was cool. That was a while ago. That was like year of the iPhone a while ago, or the year after, or something like that. But it was every single Tuesday they had some sort of announcement of something new that they're releasing. Sometimes software updates, sometimes hardware, sometimes some sort of spec bump there. Obviously, most of them were not a big deal, but they purposely spread everything out throughout the entire year and were just constantly in the news, constantly doing something. And now it's like, yeah, 2 or 3 times a year, and usually just 2.
yeah.
3, I guess, will be this year. They'll say something, and yeah, they definitely deal with this lull, which is probably easier for them from an internal standpoint. Which I guess I'm okay with that. But it's hard to just sit there and watch. It's like right when you get. It's like this stage right before now, right? Where we know WWDC is coming, but man, we still got a month. It feels like it's been forever, though they just announced and released new iPads and stuff. So what are we whining about?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's just weird. It's part of this perception thing too, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I'm trying out the Flow keyboard right now, so I'm a little bit distracted.
Do you like it? What do you think? First impressions?
It's kind of nice. I kind of like the. I'm gonna have to try this out, but I like being able to get my thumb down in that space. It's nice. Looks nice. Definitely looks nice.
Yeah, it's very clean. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think it looks, of the 3 keyboards, I like the look of it the best.
Nice. How do
I'm almost, man, being able to just search for GIFs right within the Google app is really, really nice. But I don't know, I could just switch over to Giphy too. That's just as doable. But, or what's the other one? Just the GIF. Like sending GIFs, man, that's just fun. Something about it. They're just awesome.
Yeah, I completely agree.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is that if Microsoft had it available, which I get it, it's not available for an iPad. Like, man, that would be. I would have switched both my keyboards over to that, I think.
Come on, Microsoft, get your act together.
Especially with the corner one-handed thing. Dude, man, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
The keyboard on the iPad is just too big.
It's humongous.
Just make it smaller. It's okay.
Exactly.
I've learned how to type on a small screen.
Yeah, right. You can split the keyboard in half.
Yeah, I know, but it's weird.
Yeah, I agree. It's still too big. So just kind of wrapping up with important news this week. So we mentioned this before. Apple can drop $1 billion here and there, and it ain't no big thing to them because they got so much cash. It's crazy. So they did that this week. They announced that they are investing $1 billion, that is 9 zeros, into a Chinese ride-sharing company called Didi. DI is the name. And they haven't really gotten to exactly why they did that. They just haven't, it's an Apple-y sort of thing. One of the beliefs is that it has to do with them basically wanting to kind of show good faith in investing in the Chinese market and just basically get more entangled into their economy so that the Chinese government has more reason to play nice with them whenever they try to sell iPhones over there. But the CEO of Uber, Travis Kalanick, tweeted out after the announcement that Girlfriend owns Apple shares, which makes her a DD investor. Hashtag rideshare wars. Hashtag domestic issues. Hashtag thanks a lot, Tim. It's just pretty funny. But it is an interesting question because Uber stands alone in a lot of ways, where Lyft and Apple and Ford and a lot of these big companies are starting to form alliances and to cross invest and kind of build up these systems so as they move forward and get into automated driving and different companies build cars, whether it's Tesla or Apple or whoever. There's a path forward for all of them, and Uber's kind of getting left out, which is, hashtag king of the hill problems. And it's an interesting dilemma where it's like, Uber is currently just battling it out like crazy in China because they're not getting favor because they're not a domestic company. And China's a gigantic market that they don't want to cede to anybody else if they can avoid it. So this is pretty frustrating for them, I gotta believe. And it goes even further because the company that it had started this company also, or that owns Didi, also owns a ride sharing, or is invested in a ride sharing company in India. So now like Apple's kind of cross invested in this other stuff in India, which is another giant battleground for Uber as they're trying to spread their global dominance. It's just a really interesting sort of like war as we move forward because it's a lot of money on the line, and Uber's been moving so fast that we've given them a tremendous amount of credit as just being a dominant company of the future, and kind of going like, all right, what's their next move? Where do they go from here? And it's just not that easy, especially on a global scale.
Dude, you just get that sense that Apple could care less about Uber and was really throwing the Chinese government a bone.
Yep.
So they could use iTunes and their app store and get access back to those things.
I completely agree.
We'll support your home team companies. Help us out.
Right.
And they're just like, whatever, Uber, don't take it personally. We really don't care about you.
Exactly. Which I think Uber's probably a little bit frustrated by. Have a better logo, Uber.
Dude, they had a whole article about that too, remember?
I know. Except that one was even worse because it was super ugly.
We need to have like an entire episode just about our cover art.
Changing our logo.
We are.
We're not changing our logo. We still like ours for now.
I'm attempting to change our cover of our podcast.
I know, I saw that.
Apparently that's not easy to do, so hasn't happened yet. But eventually I'm gonna figure it out, and then it'll be changed.
Yeah. I like it. I'm looking forward to it. We'll make a big deal about it when it happens.
Me too.
So the last thing I want to talk about really quick. I don't know how much time do we have? Maybe a couple minutes.
You got like 5 minutes, whatever.
Oh, perfect. I won't take more than that. This is super quick. Have you ever heard of oh geez. Oh, that was a weird. Have you ever heard of a sous vide?
No.
They're awesome. And I'm really excited, and they're sort of becoming a big deal. So sous vide basically is a cooking instrument that it's easiest to think of it as like, so you know how a crock pot, you turn on to like a particular temperature setting, like a toaster, and you'd say like, low or medium or hot. And then you could just sort of leave the crock pot going forever, and all the food will cook inside of it and get to its delicious cookedness. Get that principle? Well, a sous vide is a particularly fancy version of that, where it's kind of like and it's been a pretty famous tool for high-end chef and high-end restaurants for a while. But basically, instead of just having a high, medium, and low setting, they have a thermometer in there, and they have a feedback loop, so they can control to a very precise temperature. The advantage here being, and a simple use case would be you turn it to 140 degrees. Then you would take a steak and you'd put it into a vacuum sealed container, and then you'd throw it into you'd vacuum seal it, and you'd throw it in the sous vide at 140 degrees and just let it sit there forever, as many hours as you want. And what you end up with is a steak that is uniformly temperatured at 140 degrees throughout the entire steak. Then you slice open, you pull it out of the bucket, you slice open the bag, pull out the steak. It's perfectly 140 degrees all the way through, so it's like rare, and then but cooked. And then you take you either throw it on a grill, throw it on a super hot iron skillet, or you just take a blowtorch and you crisp the outside in a couple of seconds, and then you have just this like amazingly well done steak. And this has been one of the tricks, like I said, that high-end restaurants have been using for a while. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll have like multiple sous vides going, so that you have the medium, or you have the rare, medium, and well done all in the different baths, and then you just pull out the steaks whenever you need them and do the last couple of seconds, and boom, you got a well done steak. And in the last couple of years, and last year specifically, consumer versions of it have been coming out. And there's one that they actually show in one of the pictures my boss got. This one, but it's a cylinder, and it's probably an inch and a half in diameter, and like 10 inches tall. So it's not very big, but you basically mount it to a bucket, the side of a bucket full of water. It's got a little pump in it. It sucks up water. It's got a heating coil, and so to heat it, and it's got a little thermometer in it, so it can kind of test the water as it comes through. So it keeps water circulating, keeps water at a particular temperature. It's got Bluetooth because, why not? But it brings the sous vide home, and everybody's like, I want one of these so bad. I can't stand it. I've wanted one for like a couple of months. I've tried some of the stuff that my boss had made, because he'd like make steaks and stuff for lunch. They're ridiculously good. They're so juicy. And so
really,
yeah, and you can make anything in it that just needs to be set at a particular temperature. And he would do stuff like he would get lamb. And there are particular foods that are like really, like lamb, it's really hard to do, because you need to get it to a particular temperature in order to have it be like safe, but it dries out really fast. And with the sous vide, what you do is you just set the temperature that you need. It's vacuum sealed. You throw it into the bucket and then just let it sit there. And you can let it sit there for hours, like literally just 10, 12 hours, and set it and forget it, go to work, come back and open it up, and it's super juicy, just crazy juicy, because it never got above the temperature where the lamb starts to dry out. And so it's a very safe way to cook, in that you don't have to worry about undercooking it, but it's delivers super high quality, delicious meat, because it's really juicy, really well cooked, incredibly tender, because you can leave it there, like I said, for hours, just continually boiling. And because it never gets above the particular set temperature, it's not like it takes on more heat. You never dry it out. It just continues to.
Which one did your boss have that you liked, or?
The first like picture in the flow that says no stove required, Anova. Anova sous vide. Let's see, Amazon.
There's a link there to it. AnovaCulinary.com. We make it super simple to cook like a pro. Specs, Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I just want a price.
$215.
Okay.
Which is it's the equivalent of a nice, really nice stove, or not stove, but grill.
So it's okay. So it's that little, just to make sure I understand it, it's that little stem thing is what's cooking the water.
Yeah.
And just keeping it at that perfect temperature.
Yep.
It's like a fish heater thermometer thing.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it's not unlike that at all. You can buy if you have like a really simple what are those called, crock pot, where they're just like kind of on off, and maybe have a little thing, you can actually buy little boxes that you plug your crock pot into, you turn it all the way up to hot. That little box has a thermometer that you put into your crock pot, and then you plug the box into the wall, and
it cuts off the power for you.
yeah, it has a solid state relay in there, so they can just programmatically, they can control the temperature that way, so you can upgrade your crock pots. Problem is, a lot of modern crock pots have like electric like screens and stuff on there that don't react well to the pulsing. So you actually have to get like an old school crock pot in order for it to work.
We had one and got rid of it.
Oh, James, you had the future of cooking in your fingertips. And those little the best part about it is, because of my particular job, that's literally,
things are super nice.
I know. This control mechanism with temperature feedback and stuff, like that's what we build at my company when we build things. And
they're all $200. That's just because they can.
Yeah. But they're so easy to build. I want to build.
I know.
And that's actually where this all started for me. I started reading there's a bunch of Arduino, not a bunch. There's a couple Arduino libraries out there for feedback control, and I noticed this like probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, where it was like I would see tutorials on how to build your own sous vide using an Arduino and this PID control loop thing. And I was like, all of a sudden, it was one of those things where the do-it-yourself community started to get into it, and we're like, well, we can build these for relatively cheap. This is kind of cool. And then, as soon as the do-it-yourself community started to take off on building them, then commercial companies were like, wait a second, there's interest here. And now you've got really super nice ones that make it easy, and they have Bluetooth, which I really like. I appreciate that a lot. To me, my biggest problem is an entire infrastructure investment. I feel like I need to get a vacuum packer as well. It's like you can you can do it with just a Ziploc bag, but with the air in there, you can't just you have to be, you can't just leave it in the pot all day long.
That's interesting. That's important, huh?
Yeah. And actually, one of the things that my boss does, which is pretty clever, is he'll like cook a steak, but he'll do like 6 at a time. And then when he'll eat one then, and then he'll put the rest of the other 5 in the refrigerator, because they're all they're all perfectly cooked.
Oh, now they're cooked.
And they're vacuum sealed, so they're safe. And then he just turns the sous vide on at the end of the day and throws it in there for 20 minutes, brings it back up to temperature, and then he's ready to go and doesn't have to recook them all. And
see, I would just microwave it at that stage.
That's disgusting, James. Oh, you're the worst. You don't deserve to own one of these things.
I know, but they're pretty cool, man. This is nice.
I know. It's the future of cooking.
It's $200 though. I'm not quite ready to spend that much on a.
Right. Me too.
It would be an awesome anniversary gift or something.
Yeah.
Cool. I like it.
If you know somebody who's getting married and it's not on their wedding registry, they are failing.
Fair enough. Very cool, man. Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. That's our show. Quite a lot happened this week. You can expect a lot from a lot of Google I/O coverage next week. So Wednesday is kickoff, I think. Yeah. So we'll have, it'll pretty much be all Google all the time next week. So just prepare for that. But otherwise, thanks everybody for listening and checking out episode 242. We really, really, really do appreciate it. 3 things before we let you go. Check out all the show notes with all the links, a couple of videos that we talked about at furlobros.com. Again, that's episode 242. And if you'd like to get the show notes sent directly to you, on the right-hand bar there's an opportunity for you to sign up to get your emails. We would love it if you did that as well. And then finally, this podcast is supported by listeners just like you. Thank you so much to those of you who do support us. If you would also like to contribute, we have 4 different levels. There are fanboys, nerds, junkies, and mavens, and each have their own level of rewards, which are pretty cool. Again, furlobros.com to learn all about that. So on that fantastic note, as I pull up the audio, I am James Furlo, and my $3 billion entertaining brother is Matthew Furlo. And so we will talk next time.